Today I am working on my final for my Roman art class. It's due on Tuesday. Today is Sunday, and I'm doing a studio project. I will insert an explanation of the project here. I just woke up from a nap, which should not shock anyone at this point. But I need to provide some context about this project. So, the assignment is literally just like, for studio, is literally just like create something that relates to Roman art. Something we've talked about in class, something we read about in the textbook. So I was really drawn to our lesson on Pompeii. Pompeii is not, this is also education hour, so sorry. Okay, so while we were talking about Pompeii, we looked at a couple of different wall paintings / mosaics of the Greek and Roman god Hermaphroditus. Basically, the story that is associated with Hermaphroditus is he was born from Aphrodite and Hermes, and he is minding his own business, just out and about, whatever, and then this nymph comes and tries to essentially rape him, and the gods see this and they're like, oh no, and their solution is to combine Hermaphroditus and this nymph into one individual, which is the modern and I guess also ancient depictions we have of Hermaphroditus now. And if that name sounds kind of familiar, it's because Hermaphroditus is the like god that is heavily associated with intersex and trans individuals nowadays, because this combining of two people made it so that Hermaphroditus had genitals of a female and a male. So already very intriguing. The reason I am focusing on Hermaphroditus for my project is because the Romans would have depictions of Hermaphroditus either in paintings or mosaics or even freestanding statues, but they weren't in admiration. They were mocked and used kind of as like a gotcha, because Hermaphroditus, I'll pop up a photo here, is usually depicted as like a very beautiful woman with a penis and a vagina. And obviously that was not accepted in Roman times. So, you know, people would have these statues and they'd bring their guests out to the garden and be like, look at this beautiful, like, lady. And then when their guests got closer, they were like, this woman has a penis. Then the owner of the statue would be like, ha, gotcha. Ha, isn't that funny? Ha. So obviously that's problematic. It's very sad. Also, another myth that coincides with Hermaphroditus is there's multiple tellings of stories where Hermaphroditus is just laying out in the sun, enjoying nature, whatever, and then Pan or other mythological creatures would approach them with really sexual malintent. However, once they got close enough to Hermaphroditus to realize that they have both genitals, then that mythological character is disgusted, gets out of there, you know, is no longer interested sexually, you know, the beauty is just ripped from Hermaphroditus in their eyes. And again, problematic. Like, that's so, like, that sucks so bad. So basically, all this got me to thinking about the recent bill that was passed that takes out gender from the protected let me see if I can gather my words. Takes gender out of the protected identity markers, I guess, against discrimination. So in simpleton's terms, also, I am not a politician, so if I'm wrong in any of this, please correct me. But basically, people can now be discriminated against because of their gender, which poor Hermaphroditus knows a lot about. So that gets me to my crappy sketch so you understand what I'm making. Now, this is a really bad sketch. Okay, here it is. So good, looking good. Okay, so basically, obviously we have Hermaphroditus in the middle. This pose is like the pose that they're doing in like the most famous wall painting of them. So that's I'm going for like recognizable. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here. Then we have Pan, which is that god who, well, he's half man, half goat. He's a satyr really, but he's the god of like wilderness and whatever, but he's the one that is constantly trying to hook up with Hermaphroditus, that cannot get it through his skull that they're still beautiful. Anywho's, then it says history repeats because unfortunately this discrimination is still happening. And then around Hermaphroditus we have a banner that says do not forget me, because while they certainly are probably not the first character or figure to go through this discrimination, it's probably one of the earliest accounts we have of this sort of mockery. So I thought it was important. And then the background is going to be like newspaper, which brings in a more modern twist. So that's what we're doing. And sorry that was education hour, but I think it's important. I'm just going to wing it because I'm not a studio major. But right now I have my big paper covered in a collage of newspaper. So now I need to start drawing the figures that are going to go on it. And I am going to trace it off my computer because I don't know how to draw. So yeah, let's get to it. Oh my gosh, I'm doing a voiceover. Okay, so this part is me tracing on top of my laptop. I am using old paper from an old art class. That's why there's little bugs on it. This was actually really hard because my laptop is a touch screen, so the tablet kept moving the image, which was really frustrating. And then I didn't know what was in their hand, so I tried to like go around it and whatever. Then I'm just adding back some of the details so that it'll shine through the watercolor more. Okay, at this point I started using watercolor to color in Hermaphroditus, and I'm doing this like yellow wash because the mosaic I'm basing it off of, or wait, I think it's a wall painting, whatever, it's very golden. And then I'm just adding back the details and the shadows. Honestly, this was probably my favorite part of the project. It was definitely the most tedious, but I had fun messing around with like the colors because I knew it didn't have to look that good because I knew 90% of it was going to be covered up by fabric. And a beautiful little appearance from my ear that I was not aware was happening when I was filming this. The face was really hard and honestly still kind of looks bad. The fabric I have is white and I was gonna just use white, and then I was like, no, I don't want to do that, so I'm using watercolor to dye it. Ooh, it looks like it's going well. Okay. I have dyed my fabric. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, bruh. So while this dries and while my figure dries, I'm going to do the second figure. Hopefully it doesn't take as long as the last one because that one did burn. Okay. Now I'm using my laptop to do the exact same technique I did for Hermaphroditus, using the same piece of paper, and the computer was still giving me problems. Okay, moving on to Pan. He was super easy. I basically just color blocked the skin tone and the browns, and then I added black accents for his fur and his muscles, and just to outline some of his facial features and his hand position. Then I added some shadows, and that's really all I did for him. Okay, I take it back. I think that this was actually my favorite part of the project. It was just really fun to like freehand letters using like a big brush and like a bunch of paint. Right here you can see I put the wrong letter in the middle for spacing. This is me counting, trying to figure out how many letters are in repeat. And so then I just kind of covered that up with some newspaper, which was actually a super easy fix. And then I correct it with the right letter. That's the nice thing about having this collage background. You just, anytime I messed up, I just collaged right over it. I love owning art supplies. Yay! I don't know how to do this. Pietro.
Whenever you're done, will you just pick up your art supplies?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
No, I'm gonna leave it everywhere!
It's 3:01. I finally finished. I don't remember what time I started working on this, but it was probably around 12, so I've been working on this for 3 hours. But I'm done. I'll show you the finished product. Looks crazy from that angle, but I kind of really like how it turned out. I don't know. Definitely gonna use this as like room decor when I'm done, but yeah. I like doing multimedia projects, so this was very fun for me. And no, I'm not going to school to be an artist, and that's very apparent. However, I like it, and I like what it's about, so hopefully it is well received by my class when I have to present on Tuesday. But now I have to clean all of this up because I made a mess in our living room. I'm back for the outro. Okay, so overall, I'm happy with the result. I have it right here. I think I'm gonna use it after I like turn it in or whatever. I kind of want to use it as like decoration. I don't know. It's just like a very personal art project for me, and I really love it. I added this tie around Pan to kind of represent like the American government. That's all I'll say. However, because he's a satyr and he has something red around his neck, he looks like the dude from Narnia. Insert photo here. So I kind of wish I went with like a red hat or something else. I love a good multimedia like project. I don't know. Ooh, I need to glue their legs down. Okay, well, it's done for the most part, but I think it was a success. And it did take me 3 hours to do, which honestly went by really fast. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you guys learned something cool. I'm always down to talk nerd stuff about art and mythology, so let me know. But thank you for watching. I will see you probably sometime next week.